Okay, so I just wanted to discuss a bit about how we put together a vacuum system. The reason why we're doing this today is because the glass blowing shop at the university who's made our tube, they don't actually have the capability of putting a vacuum inside the tube and closing it off. They don't even have a vacuum system. So we've been forced to put together a vacuum system of our own to do this job. And I'm just going to describe in a little bit of detail how we did this. So first of all, let's just talk about some of the parts. So the things you're going to need are, number one, is going to be a rotary vacuum pump, or sometimes called a roughing pump. And we've got shown here is the E-6 from Edwards. You're also going to need a diffusion pump. An example of a diffusion pump is shown right here. It's an oil-filled pump which takes maybe 50 to 70 ml of diffusion pump oil, and you can see inside it's basically got a chamber. The oil goes down in the bottom, and they're often either air-cooled or liquid-cooled. This example here is liquid-cooled. This is an old one that's been quite knocked around, so I've just got it here as an example. But today we're going to be using a slightly better one, which is shown right here. This is the EO2 pump, diffusion pump from Edwards, and it can get down to an ultimate vacuum of about 1 × 10⁻⁶ torr, and it also has the advantage of being air-cooled. There's a, I don't know if you can see that there, there's a fan at the back which allows it to just be cooled by air, which is a lot more convenient when you don't have the capability of running water tubes back and forth to your system. Now, one of the most tricky things about this vacuum system is actually connecting it all together. And this involves a lot of different connectors. You see we've got the connections here between the rotary pump and the diffusion pump. And then we've got this long tube system here that's going to connect up to our tube. Now, what you need for that is a lot of different little bits and pieces. I've got some of them shown here. Essentially we've got clamps, which are right here. These are for clamping together different parts of the system. Usually you have O-rings, and you have these little custom pieces from, for example, Edwards, and you can then put it together basically like this, and then you have a clamp that connects it together, and then these pieces will connect through copper tubing to other parts of the system. So these are just some examples of some of the copper tubing with the fittings attached that we've used for various different systems. But today, this is the system that we're using. We had to custom fit this to the diffusion pump head, so we had to close it off here and connect specialty copper fitting here. We put in a closing valve, and we also connected our two gauges for measuring the vacuum. This is for the low vacuum, it's an active parity gauge, and this is a magnetron gauge, which is for the high vacuum. We also have a little system here for connecting up to the tube that we're going to evacuate, which goes to this rubber hose. So that's basically the whole system. And the most important thing you're going to need is vacuum grease, because you're always going to have a leak unless you're an expert at welding the copper together. So you're going to need the grease to go over all the joints when you have a leak. And if you can plug all the little leaks that you have, you can probably get up to 10⁻⁵ or 10⁻⁶ torr with this system. Right now you can see that we've gotten up to about 6.5 × 10⁻⁵ torr in our vacuum system. So just to show the tube that we're outgassing, this is the tube here. It's just a straight Pyrex glass vacuum tube, which is going to have the high vacuum in it, so we can pass the laser beam through it in a vacuum. And we've got some brisk tape on it right now to heat it up while we're pumping down the tube to facilitate the outgassing of the tube. We've also got here our torches, which are going to be used to seal off the tube at the pinch point here when the thing is finished outgassing.
This is just to show the temperature that we've got on the vacuum tube with the brisk tape. We're trying to keep it around 200 degrees Celsius when we're outgassing. So you can see here we're at about 197 degrees based on our thermocouple gauge that we've got connected to the tape here. After 2 hours of pump down and 190 minutes of heating on the tube, we're about ready to close the tube off. And we reached an ultimate vacuum in about 6 times 10 to the minus 5 torr, which you can see here on the gauge. So we're just going to set up to close the tube off now. After all that effort, here's the completed tube, and there's our close-off point. Not entirely elegant, but it's functional nevertheless.